I was hovering around 6 to 8K a month. Since I joined, my first month was 20K, and it's been fairly consistent since then. When things aren't going well in sales, you tend to dread the calls, and they can become a bit stressful. They can take more energy than they need to. You spend too many hours a day working to not enjoy it. Fundamentally, the most important thing is knowing what I'm looking to achieve at whatever point in the call. So obviously you have the beginning, then I'm looking for a problem and the quantifiable effect of the problem. I have that checklist in my head, and also what I'd call the tools, which are the questions to get those key things out. Even though I've been in sales for 15 or 20 years, having that framework is really important. It's just not worth winging it at all. But I was thinking, for other people that don't even have the experience that I've got, this framework, like if you just started from scratch and followed exactly what you say to do the drilling and do everything that you need to do, I feel like...
What was one of the first things you started implementing from the program that started making some positive changes in your sales?
So
people just want to know the numbers. They don't care about anything else. How much were you making in monthly commissions before? And how did monthly commissions change for you after you start implementing a real sales system?
So I would say in dollars, previously I was hovering around 6 to 8K a month, sometimes lower, ever so slightly, sometimes a little bit higher. But since I joined, my first month was 20K, and it's been fairly consistent since then.
So it wasn't always like that before, right? So before you joined, what were some of the problems that you were facing that you're looking to fix?
Great question. So the the biggest problem for me, and it's something that you identified early on, is I was a bit of a princess closer, in the sense of I would just wait for the calls to come to my meetings. Sometimes if they didn't attend, I wouldn't even call them. I wasn't messaging them or calling them beforehand, and my follow-up was appalling. So just putting a system into place in that regard increased my success significantly. And then when I brought in other aspects of what you mentioned, so Brian, I've been in sales for 15 or 20 years.
Yeah, you're not some newbie. You've been in this game for a while.
100%. So I know a lot of stuff out there, but what really works well for me is having a framework in my mind on every call that I went through, the beats and the hits that I need to get to the end of to get to the end of the call, and what I needed to get it over the line. So just to reiterate, for me, a system in place for before the call, a brilliant system on the call, which is easily replicable wherever I go in future and is working great now, and then a follow-up system afterwards. Those three things were huge for me.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get to the specifics of what we help in terms of like the specific tactics, what we implemented with just a little bit. But you said you were being a princess closer, like your pre-call process wasn't dialed in and the call. Could you go over some examples of how those problems are popping up for you on your calls or maybe in your sales?
Yeah, straight away. So the thing that what I'm currently closing at the minute is a fairly complex piece of software to do with AI. And it's very, very difficult to close someone on that if they don't have a base understanding of what we do and what the product does. So people jumping on the calls, and it's like impossible to close these people unless they've watched like a 15-minute video. So I'd jump on a call, I'd say, oh, you used to watch the video. They get frustrated. They want the price. They want all these different things. And it just caused a whirlwind of problems. So prior speaking to them on a call, messaging them beforehand, making sure that they watched the video, I just avoided that. And that's just something quantifiable, which made a huge difference.
Right. You said the prospects not going through the videos or not, them just kind of doing their own thing on the call. That was causing the problems. What kind of problems was it causing?
It's If I told you it's near impossible, even Brian would struggle to close these people if they haven't watched that specific video. No, the better way to explain it is you could close them, but it's way more difficult. And just making them watch the video and doing the pre-work prior, it just made the call so much easier.
Right. So it's a lot of like convincing and just boxing matches. Like, hey, like how much do you guys charge? Let's get to the point. Those kind of things, and I'm sure objections at the end as well. Yeah.
Exactly. And also just because they have so many questions regarding it at the beginning, they're just asking you question after question. And there's only so many times you can try to bring the conversation back to you asking questions. There's only so
Right.
many times that can happen until it becomes a bit annoying.
Right. So that's kind of how your work was feeling on the calls instead of having a good work day, just feeling a bit annoying.
Exactly.
Was it showing up in outside of work as well? Because a lot of times, whenever our students say is, okay, cool, like obviously it's affecting their confidence on the call, so on and so forth, but also a lot of people care that outside of work as well, right? So was it affecting other areas of the role or is it just mainly just the sales calls?
Yeah, so it did have the effect on other aspects of my life. So I'm in a really good situation. So most things are going quite well for me, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But if when things aren't going well in sales, you tend to dread the calls, let's say, and they can become a bit um I wouldn't say stressful, but they can take more energy than they need to. So just by incorporating the things inside the course, it I was looking forward to every call.
That's good. Yeah, you'd want to do that, right? If you're going to spend 8 hours, 9 hours a day, then you don't want to dread work. You want to look forward to it, right?
Exactly. You spend too many hours a day working to not enjoy it.
Yeah, 100%. Now, before you got into the program, I'm sure you're a bit skeptical, right? There's a lot of sales coaches, there's a lot of programs out there. So, did you have any skepticism or concerns before getting into the program?
Yeah, 100%. So even though I've been in sales for I'd say around 15 or 20 years now, I've done loads of courses within that time, and it got to a point where I'm always willing to learn. That's one of the fundamental facts of my way of being. Um, but there's so many charlatans out there. And I don't know if you remember our conversation, the initial conversation. I think you might have it saved actually, Brian. But I know I didn't want it to be released, but if you want to and people are interested, feel free to do it. But the conversation was brilliant because I knew exactly what Brian was doing, sorry, but he did it in such a way that I didn't feel manipulated or anything. It was brilliant. He established a ton of emotion out of me and really asked the best questions at the best possible time. So when I went through that process, I was like, I need to get involved in this, man, because he's singing from my choir sheet. Let's say that.
I do remember the conversation. And it was funny because in the beginning, you said something like, I'm a bit lazy. And in my mind, I'm like,
Yeah,
I
you
want
do
to keep this
remember.
guy on. I was like having second thoughts. I'm like, but let me just keep talking to this guy. You know what I mean? So I do remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And I think and I have to be kind of honest as well. I do think there is an aspect of me being kind of inherently lazy, but having a process to go through, it becomes less a problem with willpower then, and it's just something that you do. Like just like a sales call, you always turn up to sales calls, right? Because it's just something you do. So now my process before and after the calls is just something I do.
Yeah, 100%. So willpower and discipline are great to have. Have those for sure, but also it is finite, which means that it's going to run out. And when the discipline and the willpower runs out, what do you default into? We default into our normal process and our systems. And so if your system and your process is not good, then that's what you're going to default into, which is inevitably going to happen, right? So let's go over, okay, the pre-call process as well as, now we have a system, but let's give people some more specifics that they could actually maybe go get some insights from, right? So what was, aside from the pre-cut process, what was one of the first thing you started implementing from the program that started making some positive changes in your sales?
So the beginning part of the call is for me the most important. And having a framework and knowing exactly how you're going to structure the call to begin with not only takes pressure off, but it allows you to get them to open up and make the rest of the call really easy. So fundamentally, the most important thing is knowing what I'm looking to achieve at whatever point in the call. So in my head, I can actually run through it now. So obviously, you have the beginning. Then I'm looking for a problem and the quantifiable effect of the problem. I'm not going to go through all the different things here, but I have that checklist in my head and also what I'd call the tools, which are the questions to get those key things out. And it's a case of not allowing wishy-washy answers. And not moving on until you have that specific thing. But I don't want you to think it's extremely rigid with your system as well. It's a case of knowing what you need and then making sure you have them before you move on, but they can come at different points in the call.
Yeah, 100%. So one of the common mistakes and problems that closers have is that, I mean, at that point, they've gone through a different sales program. So they have some sort of script and some sort of framework. The problem with that is either some people just completely wing it because they want to be their authentic selves. And now the call just goes haywire and their results become inconsistent. Or they're too rigid with the scripts, like, I must ask these questions, but they don't know why they're asking it. Because it's not about the questions that we ask. It's about the answers we uncover from the prospects, right? And so if we're just focusing on the questions we're going to ask, then you're missing the key points, and the prospect feels like you're not really listening, or you miss key information, and then later on it bites you in the ass in objection handling. So that's really key in understanding that you're having those things like, what am I looking for? Which gives you more confidence as well, because I know exactly where to take the conversation instead of I don't really know where to go to.
Mm. And I was having a thought about this earlier because I knew we were having this conversation. And as I was walking along, I was thinking, even though I've been in sales for 15 or 20 years, having that framework is really important. It's just not worth winging it at all. But I was thinking for other people that don't even have the experience that I've got, this framework, like if you just started from scratch and followed exactly what you say to do the drilling and do everything that you need to do, I feel like anyone could be a high ticket closer just by doing it, as long as you had the ability to learn and to put it into practice. So in some ways it's scary because I have all this experience and it's taken me this long to get to where I am, but someone brand new could probably just utilize your system and just get there in such a quicker period of time.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why also you're our ideal student more, because the fact that you went through the classroom and then, okay, let me actually study it. And then I remember you sending me these messages too. Like, yeah, I'm just drilling it over and over and over again. That's where the magic happens because the framework, I mean, instead of a program, the framework is there. But also at the same time, it's not like one of those things where you watch it once. It's like, oh, like you almost instantly get it. I like to live in that ideal world, but it takes a lot of repetition, a lot of feedback, right? So you've been doing the work in terms, okay, let me just study it, let me understand it, let me practice over and over again. You've been implementing, and that's when you start seeing some positive changes.
Exactly. And also it instills that confidence in you. So do you know I said I was excited to have the calls? It instills when you're drilling, it instills that confidence in you. So when you jump on the phone with that person, you're raring to go. You've got all the tools available.
Yeah, 100%. As opposed to most high ticket closers, most princess closers, they're dreading the calls. And sometimes, I mean, I've been there too, to be fair, where I'd hope that prospects would no show
Oh, it's the
because
worst, isn't it? It's how we make
yeah, it's
money as
the
well.
worst part, right? Because I'm like, I secretly hope that they'll no show because I don't know what to do on the calls. Like, I don't know how to objection
Mm,
handle. And that's the worst position to be in because you should be looking forward to people hopping on so you can have a great time on the calls, was actually closing and making money, helping people. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
that's a key piece. Okay, so having that structure, knowing what you're looking for, what's another thing that you started implementing that started making some positive changes in your sales?
I know we discussed it already, but just the pre-call structure.
Okay.
Do you want to go through that again, or go something a little bit
Yeah, sure.
different?
I mean, if you want to expand on that, like how do you go about making sure that maybe people show up, making sure that people go to the indoctrination content so they're more warmed up for the sales call?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. So I literally follow what you have in the course verbatim. So I send an email saying basically what you've got there, and it's got the please watch these videos to make sure that our core is as effective as possible. I'm butchering what it actually is, but
Yep.
it's actually I use GHL, so it's insert a snippet, so it's saved. I could just bang it in there, change a few bits, date, time, name, whatever, subject line, send it across. Then I send a text. I just sent you this for our meeting whenever, and then I send another text. Did you get it? That before every call, even that little tweak, and I know it doesn't sound like much, is huge because it gets that conversation going. And by them confirming that they've got it, you then know they've watched the video. So that's the first thing. Then if they don't do it, that's when I call, and then I call the day of, and it just saves so much time and makes things more effective. So that's another thing that I incorporated, which was really useful.
Yeah, 100%. Another issue is that people these days, princess closers, they can't be bothered doing the confirmation because apparently they're too good, you know? And so that obviously affects their show rate as well as obviously them being able to do better on their sales calls as well. Because a lot of people think that objection handling happens after the price drop and people say, think about it. No, no, no. Objection handling happens way before. In the discovery, you're preventing objections all the way throughout. But also, what a lot of people don't acknowledge is that objection handling begins before they hop on the sales call from the content. We call them indoctrination content, nurture assets, right? the content that goes over their most common concerns, their most frequently asked questions. Well, let's just do the pre-work before the sales call, have them consume that as much as possible. That way, number one, they're more intrigued. So the perceived value of the sales call goes up. So they actually want to watch it. And for people that are watching this video, this is a nurture asset. So you watch this and you're going to want to hop on the sales call and you're more likely to buy, right? So same thing, that we just want to make it easy as possible, right? So there's sales process and there's sales skill set. Sales skill set is the objection handling, the tonality, the asking the right questions. Work on that for sure. But sales process is, okay, what are you doing before the sales call and after the sales call if it goes to a follow-up? And a lot of times sales process trumps sales skill set. So that's the key thing there. Okay, cool. So you started doing that, and once you got to that 20K monthly commissions, I mean, you mentioned about work you're looking forward to and more, but did your life change at all? Like how did it affect your life?
Yeah. So when there's certain things that you need in your life to feel, this is going to sound cheesy. I don't want to say fulfilled, but you need to tick certain boxes. And even though I've been in sales for a long period of time and I've been fairly successful, I never felt like I was fully ticking the box when it comes to my profession. So now that's been ticked, and I feel confident every single month of earning the income which I feel like I should be making. It allows me to focus more energy on other aspects of my life. Like I'm in my gym stuff now. So yeah, it's just been useful throughout my whole life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a lot of times people cannot really enjoy their life because they're only focusing on their work and they just feel guilty. Like when they're trying to enjoy their personal life, they're thinking about work. And when they're work, they're thinking about, man, I want to have a life and so on and so forth. So as the money part gets sorted out more, as in your bills are paid off, you can travel a little bit, you can help the people around you, then your life just becomes a lot easier, right? We always say train hard. That way, not only your sales calls become easier, but also your life becomes easier.
You've just hit a really important point that you made me think about it when you were speaking there. So the ability to focus on those 3 points that I talked about. So pre-call, on-call, and after-call.
Um,
So having that focus and also drilling, I feel like I spend less time now trying to get a much better result from before when I was spending more time just flippantly being all in different places and getting a lesser result. So just having a process allows me to spend less time to get a bigger result when before I was just kind of all over the place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Hermosi says this too, right? If you feel like you're working 10, 12 hours a day, but you're not really getting anywhere, it just means that you're working on the wrong things.
Exactly.
And that's why one of the first things we do, and you and I did one too, when we do a one-on-one game plan session with our students, which is we don't just give you like a whole bunch of videos and hey, good luck. I mean, we do that too, but we sit down with you one-on-one when you first enroll. We take a look at your data. We do a data analysis. We take a look at your sales calls. We identify the biggest bottleneck, and we map out a whole action step for the next 12 weeks. Right? Otherwise, you're just kind of going in there just like floundering, which is why most sales training programs don't work because they're just, hey, here's a bunch of videos, figure out good luck, but it's the more meticulous approach. Okay, so you've been doing that. And what do you feel would have happened if you didn't make that leap and if you just kept doing pretty much the same thing on your own?
So honestly, I think I would have tried something different. And this is not really the time to talk about it, but I have tried other courses and other aspects of my life as well, and they were bloody rubbish, like a complete and utter waste of time. So probably would have wasted some time with something else out there, or continued doing what I'm doing. Probably made excuses. As much as I like to think I'm fairly accountable for myself, but y- sometimes it's easier to make excuses. So yeah, probably a mixture of those things.
Yeah, for sure. And well, another thing I respect about you too is the fact that you've been in sales for 10 to 15 years, yet you didn't have the ego to say, oh, like, I know it all, right? That's a common thing that kills a lot of coaches. People in general, by the way. It, the moment you think you arrived, you're like, oh, I know it all. Well, that's when the growth stops. Now, if that's all you want to get to, that's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you do want to get to the next level, is like, what else can I do there? Like, that's a key part of actual growth, right? So, what would you say to people that are kind of on the fence about, should I do this? What would you say to them?
So there's two kinds of people, right? There's the people who They're on the fence because they're worried that they won't have the capacity to be successful. Let's say there's those people. And what I'd say to those is if you are willing to put the work in, you turn up to the meetings every day, you go for the material, you drill, and you give your all to this, you will be way better than you were before. And you'll start getting, I can't say that you'll definitely hit whatever target that you want to get. You'll definitely get way closer to it than you were before. And so there's those people, and there's maybe more types of people, but there's a second kind of person that I'm thinking about as well. And they may be thinking, well, how much better can this make me? It can make you levels above if you hold yourself accountable and put in the work. So I can't imagine. I think there's very few people within their sales career that wouldn't benefit from going through this. And yeah, I just think the kinds of people that are going to pull the trigger are the kind of people that are going to be really successful, and they'll start getting to their goals quicker. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, 100%. And that fear of failure is going to be there no matter what. It's just normal. I mean, we talk to prospects every day. As a closer, we understand that too, right? It's a normal part of being a human. However, like you mentioned, the people that succeed and make a change versus people just fall behind. It's not that the successful people are fearless. They're not psychopaths. They're not robots. It's just that they act and they get outside of the comfort zone despite of feeling fear. And that's called being courageous. And at the end of the day, I mean, what else is going to happen? You fall back up, you bruise your knees, you scrap your knees, you get back up and you do it all over again. Because what else are we going to do?
Exactly.
You know?
And
And by the way, there's something you can say to your prospects as well, if they're afraid of failing, because it's true.
one of the things which was really lucky for me is because I've been in sales for so long, hearing you on that call, I was like, oh, this guy's incredible. Like, I'm in really, really good hands. Like, this guy knows exactly how to elicit emotion from a prospect in a way which isn't forced, professional. And you would I don't want to be cheesy, but I don't want to call you a master as well, but you're really flipping good, right? So in my head, it's like, well, this guy is where I want to be, and I'm still working towards that goal. So it's a no-brainer. I think for people that don't understand sales as much, but they want to get better at it, I think it's going to be more difficult for them because they don't understand what you're doing. So yeah, it was really easy for me because I spoke to you and I was like, this guy's really good.
If you're a high ticket closer and you also want to get the 10K to 20K a month in commissions and you're not a Princess closer, you're not lazy, then you can go to the first link in the description box below to see if you'll be eligible for Real Sales System.